Hey guys, welcome back into the final episode of Season 1 here as we wrap up the 2023/2024 season. As we have our final NFL 2024 draft grades for each pick in the first round. This will go all the way from 1 through 32. This will include every pick and also give a grade for how good I think the team did as far as value, and did it make sense for them fit-wise, and also did they have to give up a ton of assets to move up and get this player. At number 1, I have an A for the Bears taking Caleb Williams. It's the best quarterback available. They took him at number 1. It's a no-brainer. I don't think we have to spend that much time on. Number 2, the Commanders having Jaden Daniels number 2, and I give this one a B. I think Drake May at 3 would be better than Jaden Daniels at 2, which is why I gave Drake May an A. I think he's the second best quarterback in the class, whereas Jaden Daniels is my third quarterback in this draft class. At number 4, the Arizona Cardinals take the first non-quarterback off of the board, and that is Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State. I got another A here for them. It was the right pick for them. They needed to make this pick to help get Kyler Murray some help, and they did indeed do so in taking Marvin Harrison. At number 5, the Chargers with Joe Alt. I give this one a B+. I think that they could have probably traded back a spot or two and got him. The value was fine. I definitely think he fits what they need, except for the fact that he played left tackle and he's going to have to move to right tackle to play in the NFL because they have a all-pro caliber left tackle, Rashawn Slater, who is a first-round pick a few years back. The Giants pick here with number 6, Malik Nabers. I gave this one my first A- of the video. I didn't give it a full A because there's another receiver available. Doesn't mean he's better than the third receiver, which I think he is better than the third receiver that came off the board here at number 9 overall. I think that Nabers is the second best receiver, and he deserves to go number 6, and I think it's a good pick. With the 7th pick, the Titans made a first of 2 back-to-back absolute stunners, particularly number 8. That pick was just unbelievable, but number 7 was J.C. Latham going to the Titans. I gave this a C-, my worst grade so far. It's a reach, honestly. It's trying to fill a positional need without getting the best player available. It's like taking here. Okay, I'm going to take the 5th best offensive tackle that we don't really have a high grade on, whereas I can take the number 3 receiver or like number 1. Tight end, or I guess, but I wouldn't probably do that. You didn't have to reach this far for J.C. Latham. You could have traded back, in my opinion, and still landed a guy like Talise Fuaga or Olu Fashanu from Penn State. And number 8, the Falcons take Michael Penix Jr. from Washington, where they already have Kirk Cousins under a contract for 4 more years. They can get out of it after 2 years. I do understand that. But they still did not need to take a quarterback at number 8. It would have made more sense if they took him in the back end of the first round because of the fact that he would have fallen. But at number 8 overall in the top 10, where you have more blue chip players available, such as the guy that goes number 9, I just don't think that it is a good pick. And I think that it's a reach for a player that's not a positional need. I will say Michael Penix deserves to go in the top 10, maybe not number 8, but like very back end of the top 10, but not to the Falcons where he's going to sit for the first at least 2 years of his career, no matter how bad Kirk Cousins play. I would imagine that Kirk Cousins will be the starter for the next 2 seasons. Rome Odunze landed in Chicago at number 9 overall. This was one of my first and one of my only A+ in the first round here as they take a receiver, number 9. Not only is it the best player available, it fills a minor, not a very big one, but a minor positional need in wide receiver. I get they already have DJ Moore. I get they already have Keenan Allen, but they go here with another receiver And Roma Dunze, I think he's the best player available. He fits that need for a number 3 receiver who can eventually easily be the number 2 once Keenan Allen is gone. I think it's a great pick, best player available, and it also fills a somewhat small but definitely the existent position of need. At number 10, the Vikings traded up a spot to land their quarterback of the future. That was J.J. McCarthy. I give this a B-. I think it's more of a personal thing. I'm just not the biggest person that would give a high rating to a pick where J.J. McCarthy is involved, especially when you trade up. I know they only moved up to one spot and they didn't have to give a ton up. But in reality, I don't think he's that great. I could see it working out because of the receiving core. But I think they could have I don't think there was a real reason for them to trade up to number 10 and take him when they probably would have been able to take him at number 11. At number 11, the Jets traded back and landed Penn State offensive tackle Olu Fashanu. He is a player who has fallen a little bit, but he's still a high-caliber offensive tackle and has gotten a lot of good looks and projections as we've gone through the process. He's gone anywhere as high as the top 10 and anywhere as low as the late teens. I honestly never seen him go past number 14 to the Saints, but he goes here number 11 to the Jets, and I give this an A-. At number 12, the Broncos took Bo Nix, the quarterback from Oregon, where I think they could have, once again, another team that could have probably traded down and landed the exact same player, just took them and sat there or traded up and then just took Bo Nix at number 12. I give it a D+. Not as bad of a grade as Michael Penix. I think it's even more of a reach than Michael Penix, if I'm being quite honest with you, but I think it makes a little bit more sense because of the fact that they have a pretty sizable and massive hole that they need to fill with the quarterback position, and I guess it kind of makes sense for them to take one and not make sure that nobody else is able to secure themselves Bo Nix. At 13, the Raiders took Georgia tight end Brock Bowers, top 5 player. I believe he was top 10 on my big board, but really good player. He's like a mix between a tight end and like a slot receiver. I would classify him as a position of tight end. He might play more slot type of, I guess, position. It's really weird. The way he plays is not like a tight end, but it's also not like a receiver. It's a very hybrid type of thing that he provides to teams. I don't like the pick as much as if it was another team taking him because they already took Michael Mayer in the second round last year, and I think he's going to develop out fine. But Brock Bowers at 13, it's the best player available in my mind. I think you can't really criticize it, so I give it a B. At 14, the Saints picked offensive tackle from Oregon State. That was Talise Fuaga. I give this one an A. I think he was a massive, massive hole that they needed to fill. Whether or not Ryan Ramczyk from the Saints offensive tackle returns or not this season, they still need an offensive tackle whether or not he's coming back, and they take one here in round 1. I think they had to leave round 1 with an offensive tackle, to be quite honest with you, and they do here, so I give it a solid A. Nothing more, nothing less. At number 15, the Colts took D-end from UCLA. That was Laiatu Latu. And I gave this one another A because, I mean, you looked at the reaction of the video when you saw the reaction that the Colts landed Laiatu Latu. They were hyped, rightfully so. He's definitely the best pass rusher in the draft. Obviously, he has a pretty good amount of injury concerns that could possibly derail his future if things don't end up going well over the next 5 years. If he runs into injury problems, he's probably going to have to call his career over, no matter how good of a player he is productively. At number 16, the Seattle Seahawks take a defensive tackle, the first one off the board, in Byron Murphy. I give this an A-. I think it's a very good pick. They needed a D tackle somewhat. I think he's worthy of this pick. He could have gone higher. He went 16. I like the pick a lot for Seattle. At number 17, the Vikings traded back up to get defensive end from Alabama. That was Dallas Turner. I give it a B plus. It would be an A plus if it were them not giving up anything. If they just had the 17th pick, sat and just took Dallas Turner, then obviously this grade would be a much higher grade. But they did have to give up some draft capital, some pretty notable draft capital as well from the future. But they did in turn land Dallas Turner from Alabama, where I give this one a solid B plus. At 18, the Bengals took Amarius Mims, offensive tackle from Georgia. I give it a B. Not too much thoughts here, but honestly, they could have went another direction. They could have went with a Brian Thomas Jr. They could have went with another player, but you can't hate and you can't dislike making a pick for your quarterback and protecting Joe Burrow. At number 19, the Los Angeles Rams took Jared Verse from Florida State, another edge rusher off the board here. I give it an A-. They needed another player on that D-line after they lost Aaron Donald. Yes, I know he doesn't really play the same position. In fact, he doesn't at all play the same position that Aaron Donald played. But it's an A- for me. It's a very solid BPA type of pick, and they still needed some more pass rush, so I give it a good grade. At number 20, the Steelers took offensive lineman. I'm saying offensive lineman because he can play tackle, guard, or center, which is pretty incredible how versatile he is. I'm giving it a B. What stands out to me is the versatility. It's really just, honestly, the versatility is why I give it a B, and why he probably was willing to, or why the Steelers were willing to put him in a position to be the number 20 pick. I like the pick overall. It could be better, it could be worse. At number 21, the Dolphins took Chop Robinson, another D end, this one from Penn State. I give this one a B+. I like the pick here. The only downside is he hasn't produced a lot in college, so he is probably a upside kind of it's a bet to pick a guy like Chop Robinson, but if they develop him correctly, he's going to be a game wrecker if that is the case. If they don't, he could be the opposite. We shall see. At number 22, the Eagles sat. There were rumors they were going to try to trade up and land a corner. They sat at number 22, didn't even have to trade up, and they landed Toledo cornerback Quinyon Mitchell. I give this an A+, honestly. Reason why is because he could have gone a lot further, a lot higher in the draft. First corner off the board going 22 is kind of insane to me. He should have gone a lot earlier. Eagles don't even have to move up. At number 23, the Jaguars took wide receiver from LSU, Brian Thomas Jr., second receiver from LSU off the board here in the first round. I really like this pick, not only because it's another weapon for Trevor Lawrence, it's also they were able to trade down and still take him, where I mocked him in my last mock draft, them taking him at 17. They were able to trade back and still land him. I think that he is only getting better as a player. I really like the pick. It's an A- for me. The Lions gave up some capital and went up to 24 and landed Alabama corner Terrion Arnold. I like the pick. I don't really like the value because while he is worth the pick, they had to give up future capital. If they sat here at 24 and took Terrion Arnold, I would give it a much higher grade, probably like an A- or so. But they did have to trade up for him, which ticks the grade down, and I give it a B. Still a good pickup for Detroit. At number 25, the Packers took Jordan Morgan, the offensive tackle from Arizona. Not the best pick for me. I think it's a C+. He's a second-round player in my mind. They could have went a better option, I think, would have been Graham Barton. Another option after that would probably be somebody like Tyler Guyton, who I think are both probably better players and should have went higher than a guy like Jordan Morgan. At number 26, the Bucs sit and take Graham Barton. When I saw them take Jordan Morgan, I was a little shocked. I thought they would probably end up sending the card in for Graham Barton, but instead they took Morgan. So Barton is the 26th pick for the Buccaneers. I give it a B. B- actually. So I give it a B-. Barton is a player who can play tackle, I guess, but he's more of a guard slash center who has the ability to move the tackle if he has to. We'll see what he actually ends up playing in the NFL. At number 27, Darius Robinson, the edge from Missouri, goes to the Cardinals. They had Marvin Harrison as their first-round pick, and their second first-round pick here this year was Darius Robinson. Pretty good combo. I think they could have done a little bit better. I gave it a B, but overall it's a solid pick. At 28, the Chiefs made some noise when they traded up for Xavier Worthy, when they traded up with the Bills, who I thought probably shouldn't have traded back with Kansas City. I wouldn't have hated if they traded with any other team, but obviously I'm not the biggest fan of the Chiefs, but they take Xavier Worthy. I have to give him props. It's an A- pick for me. I think they could have possibly landed him at 32, but they wanted to secure him. That offense is going to be so explosive next year. At number 29, Tyler Guyton went to the Cowboys after they traded back. That is what really ups my grade, is that they were able to trade back and still land the player that they wanted all along. I gave it a B+, and I am thinking that if they were taking him higher, where they took him at 20, if they would have taken him at 24, I probably would have been at like a B- or a B. I still like the pick overall. Still has a lot of improvement he can make. We'll see how he translates to the league. At 30, the Ravens take Nate Wiggins, corner from Clemson. It's an A for me. It's a really good pick. Wiggins should have went higher. I thought he could have went to Green Bay. He goes here at 30 to the Ravens. They add another piece to their secondary, another corner that they needed opposite of Marlon Humphrey. It's just the value that makes it such a high pick. And not only that, but they do somewhat need this position. Even though their team is really good, it is still getting better, and I like the pick for Baltimore. At 31, the 49ers pretty much shocked most of the fans and took Ricky Pearsall, receiver from Florida. It's a D. I give it a D. It's not my favorite pick at all. I get he played with Brandon Ayuk in college, but I give it a D because I would have given it F, quite honestly, but the fact that he has some relations with Brandon Ayuk and he played with him for a season at Arizona State helps me give it a D rather than an F. I have a late second-round grade on him, which was part of the reason why it shocked me, is he probably could have went to them in the second round. But regardless, it's not the best pick, not the best value, and not the best player available. With the last pick in the first round, the Panthers traded back up a spot, which I like, by the way, and they traded up and landed Xavier Legette from South Carolina. He is the second Xavier to come off the board in the last 5 picks. Xavier Worthy, now Xavier Legette, is finishing off the first round. They need more help for Bryce Young. They get more help for Bryce Young. I can't give it a bad grade. I give it a B+. I think they probably should have just sat at 33 because, honestly, the Bills probably would have traded down or sat and took somebody else rather than Legette. I think there are better players available, but Legette is a solid and good player. Help for Bryce Young. I like the aggressive move. They get another receiver for him, and I've liked their offseason somewhat, a lot more than I liked their offseason a year ago. That wraps up the season 1 of our show. We will have another show probably after rookie mini camps and reports on how players are doing. We'll see exactly when my next video is going to be. It may be a while, we'll see, but regardless, we will have another season. We'll be back. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next season.